Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Arundhati Ramnin and here are the headlines we're tracking for you at this hour. Sensex and Nifty turned negative for 2022 after a 2% fall today. Companies listed on BSE saw market cap erode by 4 lakh crore rupees. The Indian rupee hits another record low as the US dollar strengthens to its highest level in over 2 decades. $1 now costs nearly 81 rupees. Tata Steel moves to simplify its organizational structure and consolidate metal and mining businesses. 6 subsidiaries and an associate company will be merged into Tata Steel. Management says the move will save 1,500 crore rupees and is EPS accretive. India's top private hospital chains are staring at steep penalties. An investigation by the Competition Commission shows they abused market dominance through excessive pricing. That's a money control exclusive. Shares of M&M Finance plunge in trade after RBI orders the company to stop using third-party loan recovery agents. The move comes after an agent working on behalf of the company mowed down a pregnant woman in Hazaribagh. India makes a strong pitch for peace and calls for an end to the war between Russia and Ukraine at the United Nations General Assembly. External Affairs Minister Jaishankar says the conflict is of profound concern and the outlook appears truly disturbing. Russia starts to hold referendums in occupied Ukrainian regions to formally annex the areas. Ukraine and the West have called these referendums illegal and a sham. Heavy rains lash large parts of North India. At least 13 people are dead due to incidents of building collapse in Uttar Pradesh. Gurugram asked private sector employees to work from home. Waterlogging in large parts of Delhi leads to traffic snarls. Rajasthan Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot makes it clear that the Gandhis will not contest the upcoming presidential polls within the party. Also confirms that he will run for the top job. Let's get on to straight with a sell-off on Dalal Street. Weak global sentiment following the US Federal Reserve's rate hike continues to roil equities around the world. Sensex and the Nifty lost 2% today, turning negative for 2022. Companies listed on the BSE saw a market cap erosion of 4 lakh crore rupees just today. Banks and Nifty mid-cap index also got battered. Anuj Singhal is here with all the market action. Anuj, red on the screen today.
Well, brutal day for the market today. For the last few days, we've been talking about decoupling. Today, the market just recoupled. And how? And banks led the massive decline today. There was a bit of an algo trade at work because of what was happening in the currency market. For long, the rupee was resilient around the 80 mark. But forget 80, even 81 was tested. And the dollar index also surged. So the big risk for the market is the FI selling back. And the ETF money, which drove the market in last month's rally, is that on its way out? The big stocks, of course, were HDFC Twins and other banks. Pharma was the only sort of pocket of outperformance, but that doesn't count for much. No point talking individual names, but just purely in terms of drag on the index, the big ones, HDFC Twins, Reliance, ICICI and State Bank of India. And aside of that, the NBFCs were getting clobbered. So names like M&M Financial, Indiabulls Housing, Chola, LIC Housing, across the board, there was quite a bit of decline. The big question really is, has the trend changed for the market? And now, are we going to align with the global market? I think we'll find out soon enough.
All right, Anuj, many thanks for those details. Now, the strengthening of the US dollar continues to put pressure on emerging market currencies, including the Indian rupee. Now, the rupee recovered after weakening past the 81 mark for the first time ever against the US dollar in early trade. It ended at a record closing low of 80.99 to the dollar. Lata Venkatesh is here with why the money market is falling. Lata?
Well, it was a brutal start. The rupee started at 81 past, 81.09 and went on to even 81.23. But it recovered substantially, especially because the Reserve Bank is appearing to have sold a goodish bit of dollars. At least that's the chatter we got from the forex dealers. So the rupee was dragged to below that 81 mark. But the market is still wondering what will be the next range. Will 81 be the new 80 and RBI will defend it? Now the market is really watching. The equity market sell-off indicates that FPIs are selling. So the market will watch for whether the FPI selling now is a trend and does it overturn the 3 months of buying that we saw from FPIs. They will also watch the RBI's actions. Is it ready to burn more FX reserves? And it will also have to watch, where dollar is headed and where other currencies like the yuan are headed. So it's really wait and watch time. There is no range that one can talk about.
All right, Lata, thank you so much for those details. Now on to the big corporate story of the day. Tata Steel has approved the merger of 6 subsidiaries and an associate company will be merged into itself. 4 of these companies are listed on the exchanges. Nigel D'Souza joins us now with more. Nigel, decode this move for us.
Well, the long-awaited big consolidation drive at Tata Steel has finally been announced, with listed entities like Tata Steel Long Products, the tin plate, as well as Tata Metallics. All of them are going to be merged in its parent, that's Tata Steel. Keep in mind, Tata Steel has majority stakes in most of these companies, though in TRF, they have around 34% stake. Now, the merger ratios that were announced should come up for you on the screen, and they were more or less in line, barring TRF as well as Tata Steel Longs, where the merger ratio was unfavorable, which explains why both those two stocks were under pressure post the big run-up we have seen in the last 1 week, in fact, in the last couple of weeks. Additionally, Tata Metallics also got hit, as the street believed, since bulk of its EBITDA is coming from the non-commodity DI pipes business, well, it could possibly warrant a higher valuation. But that's not the case going by the merger ratio, and that in fact disappointed the street. Now, benefits that will come out of this entire consolidation is simplification of the group structure, as well as synergy benefits. But getting to the key benefit then, as of now, Tata Steel Longs, as well as Tata Metallics, they procure their iron ore from Tata Steel. They have to pay 22.5% additional royalty on this purchase. Now, that gets eliminated post the merger. Additionally, Tata Steel Longs, well, the balance sheet had got stretched post the NINL acquisition. So the merger is a step in the right direction. We spoke to the management earlier today, and Mr. Kaushik Chatterjee said that the merger will be EPS accretive, and also said there will be more than 1,500 crores of cost saving due to this amalgamation, which bulk of it will come in from the royalty savings that I just explained.
All right, Nigel, many thanks for explaining that to us. Now, heavy rains lashed large parts of North India. At least 13 people have been killed in incidents of lightning and wall and house collapses in Uttar Pradesh. The state government ordered all schools till class 8 to remain shut in Noida and Greater Noida. Our team of reporters get us the latest.
Right now, I am standing on Delhi-Jaipur Expressway, and you can see that after the service road, the water is coming to the main national highway also. This is the biggest problem in Gurgaon today, and I'll tell you that the weather department had said that the whole day today also there will be the problem of rainfall.
I am currently reporting from Mathura Road, and you can see this entire stretch has been waterlogged due to incessant rainfalls from the last 2 days. You can also see that the authorities have also installed water pumps to remove any excess water from this particular road. I'll also show you on the other side that this entire stretch has been affected, and there has been some sort of traffic jams in this particular area. Not only this area, certain other intersections in the national capital has also been traffic jammed due to the heavy rainfall.
East Rajasthan part, Alwar and other 1 day, 2 days. So that is the, and this whole spell will be over by next 2 to 3 days, and there will be, dry. So the withdrawal process may start from 28 or 29, depending. We are not mentioning in our bulletin. But if we see wind and moisture, that shows that withdrawal process. So this may be the last spell.
And on that note, it is time for us to head into a short break. But coming up next, an exclusive interview with Renew Power's CMD Suman Sinha in New York on the key challenges in the green energy space, Europe's energy crisis, and more. Stay tuned for that.
Eyes on whether the world is going to be able to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030, and by all accounts at this point in time we are off track on nearly every single one of them. There is an energy crisis that the world is currently dealing with on account of the Russia-Ukraine war, and the question now is, what will that mean for the climate transition? Joining me now to discuss all of that and more is Suman Sinha. Suman, many thanks for joining me here on CNBC-TV18. Let me address that issue with you. At this point in time, health crisis though starting to recede, an energy crisis which is front and center, a food crisis, an inflation crisis. Is the climate transition at risk?
Well, Shireen, you actually touched upon a very interesting topic. The world is a pretty uncertain place right now. The kind of increases in interest rates and inflation that we are seeing comes actually once in like 20-25 years. So that is actually already a very disruptive change that is upon us. Commodity prices have gone up massively high, causing all sorts of problems. And then, of course, on top of that, now you have the Russia-Ukraine war that is going on, and we don't know how that is going to play out. We also don't even know how high the Fed will have to increase interest rates, what the consequential impact on the currencies is going to be. So all of that is leading to a fairly uncertain environment to begin with. Now, on top of that, particularly now with the war that is going on, obviously energy is in a very, very difficult place because Europe is now suddenly having to find almost 40% of its energy from somewhere else. Yeah. And that then is going to create a ripple effect. The impact of which is going to be felt and is being felt all the way across the rest of the world in various markets, whether it's gas, whether it's coal, whether it's oil. And on top of that, of course, every country is trying to make sure that they have a deeper and better focus on energy security and so on as well. And therefore, it's causing a lot of changes right now in the energy transition, which is already creating its own disruption in the energy market. So all of this is just adding to this, this whole global macro. This energy crisis is really making the whole energy transition even more complex than it was earlier. So we're in a bit of a very interesting spot right now. And I think everybody has to think very carefully about how to navigate through this, both countries as well as corporates.
So let's talk about what corporations can do at this point in time. And what's the impact, for instance, for a company like yours in this mix of uncertainty? Are you starting to see budgets being cut, spending being cut as well?
Actually, quite the contrary, Shireen. I find that, this whole issue of climate change is now moving away from just governments dealing with it through forums like the COP and so on. And it's really becoming a lot more broad-based. And corporates now are really, really beginning to get very much more sensitive to this whole issue. And they are now looking at their own decarbonization journeys and what they need to do. And large corporations, of course, we had the global tech firms coming earlier to this whole situation, but now shipping companies, steel companies, cement companies, aviation companies are all thinking about how they need to move forward on decarbonization. So there's a very actually strong groundswell now that is beginning to emerge, which is leading to some really interesting conversations for companies like ours about how we can actually help address the decarbonization requirements of large global companies, of course in India, but also potentially outside. And so that's causing us to look at different kind of technology-based solutions, different markets, different kinds of customers. And my feeling is that a few years from now, you'll have corporates becoming much bigger customers for people like us than potentially even governments are at this point in time.
How much worse is it going to get before we start to see some degree of stability, given the Russia-Ukraine situation at this point in time? And, there is no one that can really fill the vacuum for Europe in light of what's happened with Russia. So what are you hearing here when you speak with both corporate leaders as well as political leaders? And, who would have thought that we would be looking at coal making a comeback at this point in time? But is that now going to be a reality that the world is going to have to deal with?
Yeah, actually this whole energy crisis is not good for climate change at all, as I think as a first step. Because, when people in Europe have a situation where as I said, 30-40% of the energy supplies are suddenly having to get resourced from elsewhere. It's going to impact their industrial base. It's also going to lead to a lot of cold homes in the winter. They'll have to look at energy rationing. At the same time, the prices of energy have gone up dramatically, almost 10 times, 15 times. Price caps are being imposed. Windfall tax are going to get levied by European governments. So it's going to lead to a very uncertain environment here, not here, but obviously in Europe. And it's going to take many years to sort that problem out. Now, I think the longer term solution is still not apparent. What is going to replace Russian gas? Is it going to be coal? Maybe only up to a point, because there aren't that many coal plants in service any longer. Nuclear is a possibility, right? And of course, then renewables will take time. But it certainly is something that is being ramped up as well. So I think it's going to take a few years to find solutions. And unfortunately, you're right, coal, gas will therefore make a comeback. And that's not really good for the climate, because ultimately all of these are going to lead to investments that will have to generate returns over a longer period of time. And how European governments deal with that is something that we'll have to wait and see. But what it is leading to actually is Europe is now taking the view that, look, we have to solve our problem. And if that means that we take a step back on the climate front, then so be it. And that's not really the best step forward. So one hopes that they find solutions which are going to be not climate unfriendly.
Let's talk about things back home at this point in time. And of course, the progress on the renewable path continues. You've had some big milestones that the company has managed to achieve through the course of the year. How does the domestic market look today?
It looks pretty good, I would say, honestly speaking. There are a number of changes that have happened. Of course, India's power demand, as you know, has picked up dramatically this year. We're looking at 6 or 7% growth. Hopefully that normalizes out to 5% plus even over the next decade. And therefore, there is going to be a lot of power generation requirement. And as you know, the government, of course, has really pointed us in the direction of renewables to fill that gap. And so renewables will therefore, really become quite a lot more, I think, dominant as, in terms of incremental capacity addition. Round-the-clock power is going to become a very important trend that is going to emerge as DISCOMs start trying to firm up their grid management. So the solutions around wind and solar and storage, that's going to become very important. At the same time, companies are actually also now buying. And the interesting thing is that over the last year or so, almost a quarter of our total new PPAs are actually with companies directly. And it's now become 10% of our total portfolio of about 13,000 megawatts. So it's actually growing quite substantially. So it's really good to see that. I think between all of these things that are happening, continued growth in sort of in a different manner, it's going to lead to, I think, continued explosion in India. The one other thing that I would say is that the government has come out with these late payment surcharge rules, where they are now really putting pressure on DISCOMs at the state level to start paying up or face curtailment of access to the exchanges, which is really causing them to become...
We just saw that happen.
Yeah, exactly. And so that is really causing DISCOMs to start paying up a lot better. And I think if they are able to hold the ground on that, and with the coming of the new Electricity Act, hopefully it'll get passed this winter. It's very, very important for that to happen, because that really looks at reforms on the DISCOM side as well, along with a whole bunch of other things. And so if between all of these different things that the central government is doing, there is a real possibility for us to have a much stronger and healthier distribution sector, and therefore the overall power sector. So I would say things are moving in the right direction right now in the country.
What's the outlook in terms of pricing? What's the trajectory looking like?
So, auctions haven't happened that much in the last few months, partly because the government is trying to sell a lot of the old PPAs that had been bid out, which they've now done successfully. So we'll see a lot more auctions coming up. I think tariff will have to go up on account of a few factors. Number one, GST, of course, has been increased from 5% to 12%, so that itself is going to have an impact. Secondly, module prices globally have gone up because of commodity prices. Wind turbine costs have also gone up. So as a result of all of those factors, you'll probably see tariffs go up a little bit, but of course we'll have to wait and see for the auctions to actually happen, for the price discovery to work its way through. But I wouldn't be surprised if you actually see tariffs go up to 3 rupees or even higher than that, compared to the early 2s that they got to for solar particularly, let's say a couple of years ago. So I think that's what's going to happen. But look, all said and done, it's still going to be much cheaper than coal-based power. So I think it's still a win-win for everybody.
So let me ask you about what the outlook is now in terms of the next milestone that you're hoping to clock.
Sharon, to be very honest with you right now, there's so much going on in our sector in terms of new technologies, new markets, as I said, corporates coming to the party. So I think it's actually very exciting. So the next milestone for us really, of course, we want to cross 10,000 megawatts as soon as possible. That will probably happen in the next year and perhaps even less than that. Hopefully we'll be the first company to cross 10,000 megawatts of installed capacity in India. So I think that will be world is here as well. So lots of good conversations happening.
What's the mood like on India?
The mood on India actually is very positive, to be very honest, because obviously everybody's focused on the Europe problem, how to solve that. I think India is kind of like a little stable island in all of the uncertainty that is going on. I think the government's targets are very well accepted and recognized and appreciated. Our NDCs have been given, which are very positive as well. So I think in general, India is seen as being a big part of the positive side of the story as far as climate change is concerned.
Well, thanks very much, Suman, for joining us here and speaking with us. Appreciate your time.